On behalf of the Kollel and the Bauman Mishpacha, I just want to thank all those who participated in this beautiful Shloshim dinner, those who took the time to learn Mishnayos on behalf of Rabbi Bauman, those who participated in the setup, the beautiful decorum of the room, and those who came tonight to participate in our Shloshim dinner, which should be an aliyah for his neshama. I just want to preface by saying that as I was gathering my thoughts over the last couple of days, it occurred to me the difficultness of the task at hand. Rabbi Bauman was a very special person, a very special friend. There was so much depth and complexity to his character. To try and sum it up with words that always seem to be so limited and finite, is very difficult indeed, but we will do our best to honor our dear friend, Rabbi Bauman. There's a fascinating medrash that is brought down in the introduction to the Sefer Ein Yaakov. And it says that there was a question that was posed to four of the leading sages of that generation. They were challenged to find a single verse in the Torah that captured the essence of the Torah. What if you had to pick one verse to define the mission statement of Judaism, of the Torah, what would that verse be? The first sage was Ben Azai. Ben Azai quoted the verse in Genesis that says, "Vayivra Elikim es ha'adam b'tzalmo b'tzelem Elikim," that Hashem created man in the image of God. The second sage was Ben Azai. Ben Azai quoted perhaps the most famous verse in our Torah, found in Deuteronomy, that of Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, the declaration of our faith. The third sage, Ben Nanis, he also said one of the more famous verses in the Torah, in Leviticus, that we should love our friend just as we love ourselves. And the final opinion is that of Shimon ben Pazi. Shimon ben Pazi, he brought down the verse that's found in Numbers of Es hakeves echad ta'aseh b'boker ve'es hakeves hasheni ta'aseh ben ha'arbayim. This is the simple mitzvah of the daily offering. Hashem commanded Klal Yisrael to bring the daily offering every single day, one time in the morning and one time in the evening. The Medrash is revealing to us these four primary focal points that encompasses all of Judaism and all of the Torah. Ben Azai said, the verse that he chose was Vayivra Elikim es ha'adam b'tzalmo b'tzelem Elikim, that Hashem created man in the image of God. That means when a person looks upon a human being, and more specifically a Jew, he should automatically have a sense of godliness, holiness, and royalty. And how appropriate is this description for our dear friend, Rabbi Bauman? When we first came to Savannah, I used to get a lot of comments. They would come over to me and say, "Brian, have you ever seen Rabbi Bauman's hat not perfectly situated on his head? Or did you ever see his tie maybe a drop out of place? Or his beard not trimmed to perfection?" Anybody who knows Rabbi Bauman, they know that this had nothing to do with making a fashion statement. Rabbi Bauman couldn't care less about fashion. Rabbi Bauman had a deep sense of what it means to be created with Tzelem Elikim, to be, especially him as a rabbi, to be a representation of Torah. Everything has to be disabled. Everything has to be in an order. It has to be prim, it has to be proper. That's the way a Jew always reveals himself to the world around him. I was given some wonderful advice before I came to Savannah. An individual in Lakewood came over to me and he said that you're about to embark on a journey, be in Kollel, and you're going to be involved in engaging the community, outreach. And of course, one of the key forums to outreach is the Shabbos table and the home. And he said that it is so critical to create the right atmosphere within the home. He said a person can have the most engaging conversation. He can speak the most powerful, inspirational, beautiful, pure words of Torah. But if the atmosphere seems to be unkempt, untidy, chaotic, not in order, not arranged, then that's exactly how the words will be perceived. Disorder, chaotic, and unkempt. But if the home is one that is tidy, it's proper, everything's in place, there's arrangement, there's a system, there's a method, then that home can have the proper impact. Anybody who was fortunate enough to share a Shabbos meal at the Bauman home, they can testify to the beauty found within the home. Yes, Kanai Nahara, the Bauman children are energetic, they're lively, they have wonderful personalities, bouncing off the walls, no doubt about it. However, when you walked into the home, there was always a sense of calm. There was order. Things were properly arranged, and there was a system. And you got to experience what it means to have Jewish simplicity, but at the same time, there was Jewish royalty. And that's why the Bauman family was so effective. Their home, their Shabbos table was so effective in engaging the masses right here in our community. Ben Zoma says, the defining verse of Judaism is Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. The concept of a single, universal God creator and man's acceptance to serve our creator and to connect to Hashem. The best method that we have to connect to our creator, to connect to Hashem, is through tefillah, through prayer. Who can forget Rabbi Bauman and the special role that prayer, tefillah, played in his life? We all remember Rabbi Bauman sat in the front right area of the chapel. He also sat in the front right area of the main sanctuary. We know that the Shabbos service can sometimes feel long. Some of us may feel the need to walk out, take a stroll, chap a shmooze perhaps. Rabbi Bauman was always that pillar. He always was in his place the entire time, never talking during the entire service. Rabbi Bauman had a deep understanding of what it means that he was literally standing in the presence of his Creator. Davening tefillah is an opportunity to have a private audience with Hashem. And he did everything he could not to miss out on that opportunity. I personally always found his davening to be a source of inspiration, and I know that so many others did as well. The next sage was Benanis. Benanis said that the verse that is the personification of Torah in Judaism is V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. Simply, Ahavas Yisrael, having a love for each and every Jew. And it goes beyond love. It's having a sense of responsibility for every single Jew. Rabbi Bauman and his Rebbitzin could have easily stayed in the great Northeast. We know that's a wonderful Jewish metropolis, but more than that, that's where their mishpacha is, the Bauman mishpacha, the Stern mishpacha, they live in the Northeast. But this burning sense of responsibility for Klal Yisrael brought the Bauman mishpacha down to Savannah. Why? Because he simply felt that every Jew matters. And we all experienced this. During his entire time in Savannah, we saw how he was able to connect and engage with every type of Jew, beginners and more advanced as well. He connected with beginners. Rabbi Bauman was the one who started our basic learning of Hebrew, teaching members of our congregation how to read Hebrew. He told me that this was so important to him because he felt it's not enough that Jews come to shul and they are a spectator. It's so important to be an active participant in our Shabbos service. And he took this upon himself to be that conduit to allow people to enjoy and engage and participate actively in the Shabbos service. Rabbi Zinsleas told me during that tragic week when they were searching for Rabbi Bauman, she mentioned that a member of our congregation, a woman in our congregation, came over to her and said, I love Rabbi Bauman. It's because of him that I can read Hebrew, I can come to the synagogue on Shabbos, and I can participate and follow along with the services. This was Rabbi Bauman. He also had a knack for connecting with the more advanced and the more learned. Our well-attended, famous Morning of Learning was Rabbi Bauman's brainchild. He told me before it started that it was so important to him because it wasn't enough that people just came to the synagogue and studied Torah or studied Talmud. But he wanted to bring that energy, that vigor, that excitement that's found within the halls of the Beis Medrash and Yeshiva. He wanted to bring that same excitement and that energy right here in Savannah, Georgia. And he created this wonderful program called the Morning of Learning, where I hope anybody didn't experience it, Literally, the halls were reverberating with the sound of Torah study right here in Savannah, Georgia, all created by Rabbi Bauman. A deep sense of responsibility for all of Klal Yisrael. And of course, we all remember the special connection that he had with the children. Loved teaching Torah and learning with children, which is what eventually motivated him to become a Rebbe in Norfolk. But he always had that group on Shabbos afternoon or Yom Tov afternoon. The boys, the middle school boys, would come to his house to learn Mishnayos. We're talking about boys at the age of 10, 11, 12. Their parents didn't make them come. No one asked them to come, but they wanted to come. They simply wanted to come to learn with Rabbi Bauman and to be with Rabbi Bauman. His brother-in-law, Hillel Newhouse, he shared with me that they used to visit for Sukkot every year. And he said that most people, after you clear the Shabbos table from the Shabbos meal, or the Yom Tov meal, most people clear the table and they want to go for a walk, they want to take a nap, but not Rabbi Bauman. He immediately cleared one table and set the next, with soda and candy and cookies and chips. And his brother-in-law asked him, what did we set the table for? And Rabbi Bauman said that my boys are coming to learn. And they love coming to learn with him. Everybody loved coming to learn with him. Rabbi Bauman he was the epitome of what it means to be an Ish Emes. He was truthful, he was sincere. His Ahavas Yisrael, his love for each and every Jew was apparent because of that sincerity. Final opinion that we mentioned is that of Shimon ben Pazi. Shimon ben Pazi says that the mission statement of Judaism is the commandment to bring the daily offering, the carbon tamid. This was an offering that was brought twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, no matter what the circumstances were. Whether it was a weekday, whether it was Shabbos, whether it was a Yom Tif, even Yom Kippur, times of war, times of peace, no matter what, Klal Yisrael brought this offering on a daily basis. The Maharal explains that this commandment in this verse ultimately defines what it means to be a Jew. It's that unwavering commitment, it's the unwavering consistency on a daily basis, day in and day out. At the core of Judaism, it's not always about that emotional Yom Kippur day, or perhaps an uplifting sermon that provides us with great inspiration, or even a memorial service at times. At the core of Judaism, the Maharal explains, it's the daily commitment of ordinary Jews. You want to know the mission statement of Judaism? You want to know the mission statement of our dear friend Rabbi Bauman? It was about being there every single day. It was about learning every day. It was about davening every day. It was about making it your life's mission on a daily basis, to do everything you can to be God's agent, to infuse this world with a little bit more light, a little bit more purpose, and a little bit more meaning. Rabbi Bauman was the consummate Eved Hashem. He was the consummate servant of Hashem every single day. But he wasn't just a servant. Rabbi Bauman epitomized what it means, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, to serve Hashem with simcha, to serve Hashem with joy. Who can forget the beautiful smile that was always found upon his face? It was so disarming and so inviting. And everything that he did, that I'll never forget, everything he did was done with that classic Rabbi Bauman touch of humor. Rabbi Bauman was the model of what it means to be joyous, consistent. I just want to finish with one final thought, and I want to touch upon the tragedy that took place. Not so much the passing of our dear friend, but the fashion in which it happened. It happened in such a public fashion. It was on the global stage. How do we understand this? How do we comprehend this? So again, his brother-in-law, Rabbi Hillel Newhouse, shared with me a medrash that was so enlightening and so comforting. There's a medrash in Koheles, and I'll summarize, that states as follows. It says, you find that when the righteous are born, no person is aware of it, because they have yet to accomplish. There's no fame, there's no accomplishment. They're just like any other infant born on that day. However, Kishmeisin Hakol Margishin, when the tzaddik is taken from us, everyone is aware of it. And the Medrash goes on to give us a few examples. The Medrash says that when Miriam, the prophetess, was born, nobody knew. But when she died, because in her merit, Klal Yisrael had the well in the desert, and it departed through her death, so every single member of Klal Yisrael felt the impact of her death, and everybody was aware of it. It says by Aaron, that when Aaron HaKohen, Aaron the high priest, was born, nobody knew. But when he died, because in his merit we had the Anani HaKavod, we had the clouds of glory, when they departed through his death, Hashem made sure that everybody was aware that a great tzaddik has left us. And Moshe Rabbeinu, when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, no one knew, but when he died, because in his merit we had the man, the heavenly bread that departed, was taken away from us. So again, Hashem made sure that every single member of Klal Yisrael knew that a great tzaddik had been taken from us. The Medrash continues with one final example, and it says when Joshua, the great disciple of Moshe, when Joshua was born, nobody knew. But when he died, everybody knew. But the Medrash asks, there was no supernatural provision that was provided for Klal Yisrael in the merit of Yehoshua. So how did Klal Yisrael know? The Medrash says that Zeh Oisek b'Sadeu, Zeh Oisek b'Karmoi, and Zeh Oisek b'Malachtoi. This person, they were going about their daily business. This person was occupied with his field, another was occupied with his vineyard, this person was occupied with his business. How did they know that the great leader in Tzaddik Yehoshua had passed away? So the Medrash answers, and the Medrash says, Bikesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu laharis aleim, lefichach hirgishu b'hakoel v'yedias misasei. Hashem caused an earthquake to take place so that everybody should stop their daily routine. World Jewry should stop their daily routine and know that the great Tzaddik Yehoshua was taken from us. Hashem had decreed that it was time for Rabbi Bauman to pass away. But Hashem also decreed that it wasn't enough that his mishpacha knew about it. It wasn't enough that the communities that loved him so much, that they knew about it. Hashem orchestrated events that all of world Jewry would know that Tzaddik had left our midst. Obviously, Hashem felt it necessary and important that we be made aware of the passing of the Tzaddik. Yizichrei Baruch, his memory should be only a blessing, and may he be a worthy advocate for his beautiful mishpacha and all of Klal Yisrael.
I look around this room and I look at the faces of everybody, and I feel like everybody here feels like Rabbi Bauman's family. I certainly do. I don't know why I'm standing here as opposed to anybody else. We all feel that something's been taken away from us. It's painful, it hurts. But that was his quality. That he made everybody feel that they were something special to him, and they were. And I couldn't help but think of a leader of our past who was exactly the same way. Aaron HaKohen, Aaron, the head priest, had a quality which was very different than his brother, Moshe, the leader of Klal Yisrael. It says in the verse, in Parshas Chukas, chapter 20, in Bamidbar, it says that Vayivku Oisa Kol Beis Yisrael, the entire house of Israel cried for Aaron when he died. Obviously, the normal labeling for the Jewish people is Bnei Yisrael, the sons of Israel, the children of Israel. Over here it uses Beis Yisrael, the house of Israel. And the reason why is because to Aaron, this was his family, this was his house. It wasn't that he was the leader separated from the congregation. He was part of the household of the Jewish people. He had the quality of, even though being at the head of a giant organization, he approached each person on a personal basis. The Medrash says that when there was discord between individuals, not communities, a man and his wife, a person and his business partner, Aaron went to the lengths, despite having this enormous nation to deal with, to personally approach each of them and resolve their differences. So when he died, Vayivku Oiso Kol Beis Yisrael. Rabbi Bauman, my dear, dear friend, was no different. Everywhere where I went, whether it was Norfolk, Muncie, Savannah, everybody was so passionate and emotional about what occurred. It was just amazing. It's like each person felt, like I said, that he was part of my bias. He's part of my household. There's another thing that it says by Aaron. When he passed, it says it twice. It says, Vayosef Aaron el Amov. It says that Moshe was gathered onto his nation. What does that mean? What does it mean he was gathered onto his nation? What that means is that when a person passes, and 30 days have passed by, that person's effect, while he was alive, disseminates across the entire expanse of his influence. And at that point, everybody has to gather as much as they can from what they learned from that person at their death. Aaron was so impactful on the Jewish people, he wasn't gathered onto his family. He wasn't gathered onto his street. He was gathered onto the entire nation. Each person felt that they had something to take away and grow from, that they had gleaned from Aaron HaKohen. And we're all no different. Rabbi Bauman had such an impact on all of our lives. He used to send me texts every week, even though I never answered them. And every time I saw him, it was like meeting an old friend, which he was. I will miss him, but it's our job to remember that we shouldn't shy away from thinking of him and thinking of the times that we spent with him, what we learned from him, and it should be as close for his neshama and his family.
Heard from two of Rabbi Bauman's dear friends with whom he literally grew up. Went to high school together, studied together, they attended each other's weddings, they came and they formed this unit, this body that we call the Kollel, devoting themselves to advancing not only their knowledge in God's Torah, but to disseminate it, share it with Klal Yisrael. The Shloshim, the 30-day period, was actually a few weeks earlier. But for whatever reason, in order to give Sivya the opportunity to be here, so this was delayed and postponed. but everything is bashert. This week we're going to read from the portion of Rabbi. And in this portion, it has one verse, actually two, which is so fundamental in Jewish thought. Banim atem la'Hashem Elokeichem. You are children unto the Lord your God. Loisis goydadu, v'layikrahu korcha b'neinechem. Don't cut your flesh. Don't pull your hair out. What is this referring to? Sometimes there can be something so devastating, a death, which is so horrific, that all we want to do is pull our hair out. There's nothing we can say. There's no rhyme, there's no reason, no one is prepared. We just feel like we want to take a knife and we want to just cut our flesh. Torah says this is prohibited. Why is it prohibited? And what does it have to do with the beginning of the verse? You are children unto the Lord your God. All the commentaries present to us a path. The Rachaim HaKadosh says, we mourn and we grieve for two reasons. Number one, what about the soul of our loved one? What's happening? And to that, the verse says, the soul was sent on a journey. And now the father, the mother say, my beloved child, it's time to come home. There's no reason to grieve for the soul. Where is the soul going? The soul is banim, the soul is a child, going home unto God. There's no need to grieve for that soul. But there's another reason why we mourn. What about those of us who are left behind? What about the void and vacuum in our lives? Here too, the Sefurno, the Ramban, the Ibn Ezra, the Arachaim, they say this is what the verse is referring to. We're not abandoned. We're not alone. When someone loses a main staple in their home, where are they going to turn? Well, if there is a great benefactor who is there to help, to provide, to show love, and to care, we're not as abandoned. We don't feel that void and vacuum. We are the children of the Lord your God. And therefore, we're not alone. We might not understand why the Ibn Ezra says children never understand the decisions of their parents. Parent tells them to eat this and to drink this and to go to sleep at this time, and parents don't know what they're talking about until a child grows up and realizes how much we are indebted to our parents. We are children unto the Lord our God. The verse that follows, Am Kadesh Ata, you're a holy nation and a treasure that God has chosen from amongst all the nations in the world. For these words, and I am sharing with you from our greatest sages, they're beautiful, they're lofty, but they're not easy. It's not easy. Everyone whose heart is broken, we know this is not something which is easily attainable. But we can do it because we are the ones who are chosen. Because we are chosen, because we are holy, because we are unique, we are tested. But we put our faith in our Father in heaven. We put our trust in He who summons the soul to return home. And we place our future in His hands. This is a Jewish perspective. But what can we do? What can we do? Rabbi Bauman, as we have learned and we all know, was a man who took action. He didn't just speak. He made it a reality. He touched each and every one of us. What can we do to see that his memory lingers and remains within us and continues to motivate us towards that end and that goal that he aspired his entire life. That I'm going to read for Rabbi Ninikman to recommend. Our prayer is that God has taken this holy korban. He chose Reuven Tzvi Bauman, that he should be the one that will bring an atonement for the rest of Klal Yisrael. And literally God took him. He ran into the water to do a mitzvah. And like a hand came out, grabbing him and pulling him. Maybe it was this Rein Tuya, the outstretched arm of God, bringing him and telling his soul that it's time to come home. May he continue to be a source of inspiration. May he continue to be a Melitz Yosha, a worthy advocate on behalf of his mishpacha, on behalf of all of us, and on behalf of Klal Yisrael.
Amen.
As Rabbi Slavis mentioned, when this all happened, a lot of people had questions. And ultimately, we all wanted to know what could we do, because there's really nothing to do. And yet we all feel a void. And personally, I was friends with him since high school, became much closer here in Savannah. And I was thinking, what would be appropriate to do for ourselves that we could do on behalf of Rabbi Bauman. So as was mentioned earlier, there were a few things that he was very well known for and that were very dear to him. And I just wanted to say that there were two, I think, that stuck out the most. As Rabbi Rabhan mentioned so eloquently, the idea of commitment. When you do something, do it right. Do it all the time, every time, on time. That's who he was. Everything he did, he gave it his all. His life, his soul, his heart went into everything that he did. Because if something's important, you do it. That's the way he lived his life. And his commitment to Torah was, the main reason he came here to Savannah. He wanted to teach Torah, he wanted to learn Torah, and Savannah was that opportunity for him, and really was the opportunity for us. So I thought it would be appropriate if we could all take that lesson and try to give back a little bit. So, as we mentioned, Rabbi Bauman was very keen to knowing where people were holding. Some people needed more advanced, some people needed simpler, some people needed the beginner's guide, and some people needed the advanced help. And he made sure everybody got what they could get in his own way. So I've purchased a number of books here on the front table. They're all Torah books. I'll just talk about each one of them very briefly. And the goal here would be that everybody should pick one. There's sign-up sheets for all of them. And each one will be available due to a generous donation by the Garfunkel families. Each one will be available for $5. And to accept, to learn one book, just pick whichever one. And we will hopefully make a see him at the yard side in about 10 months from now, plenty of time. And the goal here is that everybody should make a commitment. Everybody should learn some Torah daily in the merit of Rabbi Bauman. So just briefly to go through what we have here. First there is the Tehillim, Psalms. Anybody can do that, there's no question. It's the classic of classics. No better way to connect to Hashem than through the Tehillim. That is available as number one. Obviously, it can be said in English or in Hebrew if necessary, if possible. The second is a book called Living Emunah. Living Emunah is a book chock full of inspiration. It's stories. I know it has made a major impact on people's lives. There are rave reviews about it. It's really a powerful book helping us connect with Hashem and understand what it means to believe in Hashem and live a life that's guided by Him. It's a storybook, but it's magnificent. The next few are written by the Chafetz Chaim. He wrote specifically on topics of speech and on proper action, the way we should do things. So there are 3 volumes here. One is the Family Lesson a Day, and that is a book about the laws of Lashon Hara, the laws of proper speech, and it's designed for all ages. It's designed to be read at the dinner table with the family, for kids. There's a lot of stories in it. It's accessible to anybody and everybody, young and old alike. It is a wonderful piece. They're in very high demand. The publisher told me they're hard to come by. They're trying to keep up with the demand. It's a very, very good book. The next 2 are slightly more advanced, not very much so, but they are the concise Chafetz Chaim and the concise Ahavas Chesed. The concise versions of the greater works that the Chafetz Chaim wrote. One is the Chafetz Chaim, the famous one, which is about the laws of proper speech and Lashon Hara. The other is Ahavas Chesed, which is the laws of doing kindness. Doing a kindness can be done the right way and it can be done the wrong way. Hard to believe, but it can be. So this book is also a wonderful way of connecting to be able to learn what is the proper way to do kindness to others. It's not just about being kind, but there is a very concise, wonderful volume that everyone can read and learn those laws and get direction. The next is Pirkei Avos. Everyone's familiar with Pirkei Avos. No explanations necessary. That's a wonderful volume as well. And the last 2 are the Mishnah and the Gemara. The Mishnah is the new elucidated Mishnah by Art Scroll, which is made with a very simplified translation and explanation. So for the men who are a little bit more experienced and perhaps have learned some Mishnah in the past, that will be a wonderful choice. And finally, the Gemara, the Shas, that those who are the most advanced will be able to take a volume. Now, these are all small portions. The Mishnah is an average of about 15 chapters. The Gemara is an average of about 15 pages of Gemara. And none of these should take more than a few months, but we certainly have until the Yartzeit. So just to note that many of these are split up into calendars to finish 2 or 3 times a year. So to finish them once would be very simple. And again, the request would be that everybody should take something that appeals to them, that they feel that they can do on their own or with someone else. So because in light of this, I would like to also recommend anybody who would like to study with somebody else, over the phone perhaps is probably the most practical, or in person, just to call every day and go through 1 page of the same book or something. There is a box here on the charts to check off that you'd like to have a study partner, and we'll be happy to arrange. If you like one, just mark it off, and we will arrange somebody for you that people can learn together. In addition, Rabbi Slatus recommended that for the men who are here every night for Mincha and Ma'ariv, once a week we should take the time to learn together. So on Wednesday nights after Ma'ariv, we'd like to take 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes after Ma'ariv, everyone who's here anyway, whatever you are going to be learning, whatever you've accepted, just bring it with you and we can all sit down. We're not going to learn it together necessarily, but we should all be learning at the same time in the same place, in a merit for Rabbi Bauman. So again, each of these is a single volume. They'll be $5. If you finish one you'd like another, by all means, please ask and we'll be happy to get you another. Once all of the orders come in, I know exactly what we need. I will order all of them, and I would like to actually have them gold stamped on the front so it will say that this is learning is in memory of Rabbi Bauman. And this way, when you have it at home, you'll see it and you'll understand what it's all about, and you'll make sure to stick to it. So with all of these options, I hope everyone can find something that they like. For those who will be taking either Mishnah or Gemara, we will simply see how many we get, and we will divide up exactly which Mishnayos and Gemaras will be appropriate for everyone who comes. Thank you for coming. I would like to, for one last thing, I would like to ask Sabrina Rabham to come up and say a few words.
It's not really a few words. I left a little instruction on everybody's table. And some paper. I have a friend who I spoke with, and she said that this was a beautiful and lasting tribute, and mainly for Rabbi Bauman's children. If you can write, and I don't want sad stories, I want happy stories. I remember when Rabbi Bauman was giving himself a haircut, and the piece fell off, and so he had like a shaved spot, and that type of thing comes to mind, and it's funny, and he had such a wonderful sense of humor about it. But I want any type of interaction you have because Rabbi Bauman's mother, who lost her mother at a young age, said she just doesn't want his children to not know some of the beautiful things that we know. So if you could take some of the pretty paper I left, I'll laminate them and I'm going to bind them and we'll make a really nice book. And then we'll give it to Tzivia. We can make copies if anybody wants a copy. And it's a lasting, I mean, it'll be there hopefully for generations. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to make a siyum that our community, together with some help from some others, got together and we were able to finish the entire Mishnayos, all of Mishnah, Shisha Sudra Mishnah, in the merit of Rabbi Bauman. So I would like to just say the very end of the last Mishnah and then make the siyum on all of Mishnayos. The end of the last Mishnah says, Amar Rav Shimon bar Chalafta, Rav Shimon the son of Chalafta said, L'matzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu keli machzik bracha liYisrael ela hashalom. Hashem found no vessel that was able to contain the blessing that he wanted to give the Jewish people better than peace. Peace was the only thing that all the blessing could be contained in, because without peace, all the blessing in the world is for naught. Shenemar, as the verse states, Hashem Hashem has given strength to his nation, Hashem Yivarech es Amav Hashalom, and Hashem has blessed his nation with peace. Hadar Nalach Shisha Siddur Mishnah v'Hadar Chalon, Datan Nalach Shisha Siddur Mishnah v'Data Chalon, L'Nisan Shem Nalach Shisha Siddur Mishnah v'L'Sisan Shem Yinon Le'Ba'om Ha'adem Le'Ba'om Ha'aset, Hadar Nalach Shisha Siddur Mishnah v'Hadar Chalon, Datan Nalach Shisha Siddur Mishnah v'Data Chalon, L'Nisan Shem Yinach Shisha Siddur Mishnah v'L'Sisan Shem Yinon Le'Ba'om Ha'adem Le'Ba'om Ha'aset, Hadar Nalach Shisha Siddur Mishnah v'Hadar Chalon, Datan Nalach Shisha Siddur Mishnah v'Data Chalon, L'Nisan Shem Yinach Shisha Siddur Mishnah v'L'Sisan Shem Yinon Le'Ba'om Ha'adem Le'Ba'om Ha'aset, Harav Noah Adonai Le'Hinu Tiberes Rascha B'Finu B'Fias Hamcha Beis Yisrael, V'Nia Kulono Anachim Zetzoinu Zetzoyam Beis Yisrael, Kulono Yedei Shemecha V'Lem Yisrael L'Shma, V'Oibais Chakmeni Mitzvah Sechel Ki Le'Olam Hili, Yihili B'Yisam B'Chukecha L'Man Le'Eibash, La'olam Le'Eshach B'Kudecha, Yibam Chiyisani, Baruch Atah Adonai Lamdei Chukecha, Amen, 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 Tzelav Oed. Moedem Anachim L'Fanecha Adonai Eloheinu V'Lehei Abeseinu Shesantu Chalkeinu Yeshu Beis Hamedrash, V'Loim Yeshu V'Kronos, She'anu Mashkimim V'Hem Mashkimim, Anu Mashkimim L'Divrei Torah V'Hem Mashkimim L'Dvarim B'Telem, Anu Amelim V'Hem Amelim, Anu Amelim V'Mekablim Schar V'Hem Amelim V'Enim V'Mekablim Schar, Anu Ratzim V'Hem Ratzim, Anu Ratzim L'Chai Olam Haba, V'Hem Ratzim L'Ber Shachas, Shenemar V'Atu Elohim Taridim L'Ber Shachas, Anshe Damim B'Mirma, L'Al Yechetz Yemeyim V'Ani Evtach Bach, Yiratzim L'Fanecha Adonai Lehai, Kishem Shazartani L'Sayim Shisha Siddur Mishnah, Kach Hazreinu L'Haskell L'Sadar M'Aswar M'Achelim Acherim L'Saimam, Wilmod L'Lam L'Ishma V'Lasas L'Kayim, Es Kol Divrei Sam L'Teresecha B'Yahava, V'Schus Kol HaTanoim, Talmid HaChachamim HaNizkarim B'Shisha Siddur Mishnah, Talmid Lanu L'Zareinu Sh'Latama Sh'Aterim Mipinu, V'Pi Zareinu, V'Zera Zareinu, Ad Olam. V'Yikurim Banu V'Yisalecha Tancha Oisach, V'Shach B'Cha Tishmar Alecha, V'Kitzoysa Hisis Yichecha, Ki Yibo Yemecha V'Yisifu L'Cha Sh'nois Chayim. Ayrach Yamim B'Yimino V'Smail Ha'Aishim V'Chavayid, Adonai Oiz Lama Yitain, Adonai Yivarech, Esamay V'Shalom. Yizkadeh v'yizkadeh Shemei Rabbi, Yomadu Asudei Skadato, L'Echayim Esaya, L'Sakir Yosem L'Chai Alma, L'Givnei Karta D'Yerushalayim, L'Shachalei L'Hechalei B'Gavo, U'Mekar P'Uchanon L'Chra Me'ara, L'Sav P'Uchanon L'Shvay L'Asrei, V'Yam L'Echur Sharichu B'Malchusei V'Karei, V'Chai Echayim V'Yemechayim, V'Chai L'Chal Beis Yisrael, V'Lo V'Yifan Karei V'Nu Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbi Barach, L'Olam L'Omei Omay Yoyis Barach, V'Yishabach Yisvar V'Yisram Yisnasei, Yisadar V'Yisalev V'Yisalosh V'Yikudusha V'Yichu, V'Eilam V'Kav V'Chasav V'Shirasa, V'Tim V'Chasav V'Nechamasa, D'Amiram Yalma V'Yimnu Amen. Al Yisrael Al Rabbanon V'Al Tamidei Hain, Al Kol Tamidei Hain, V'Al Kol Man Da'as K'mar Yisod, V'Asar Adenu, V'Di V'Chol Asar V'Yasar, Yehei L'Haim L'Chaim Shlom Rabba, China V'Chitza V'Rachamei, V'Chai Yavichei, V'Zayin Yavichei, V'Kona Mikama V'Yishma Yavimnu Amen. Yehei Shlom Rabba Min Shema Yavachayim Alein, V'Al Yisrael Yavimnu Amen. Yisrael Shalom Yimraim V'Hu Yasser Shalom Alein, V'Al Yisrael Yavimnu Amen.
Vielen Dank.